Difficult. Women. Hey.
Hi.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I know. I feel it too.
Oh, God. How's it going?
So good.
Who are you?
Marie.
Cool.
Who are you?
I'm Katy. This is the Difficult Women podcast.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. Oh, man, do we have a doozy of an episode for you.
Oh, my God. It's true. I think, and we probably should just jump right into it.
I think we should.
But I will say...
Huh? What were you saying?
I was just going to say.
What's that, dearie?
I was just going to say, I do think, I'm actually really excited about this episode because I do think that we will certainly have listeners that are going to get a lot out of this and who may be experiencing similar things.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for you today, we have, let's see, I've pulled up her IMDb. She's also one of my best friends. I should probably maybe know this stuff off the top of my head, but I'm like, who is this person? No, she's actually a fellow Nashvilleian. She is an actor and writer, comedian. I remember when she was on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt because I was so jealous.
Ooh, yeah.
She was so good in that. She was in Veep. She was on The Characters on Netflix as the sketch program. She was a writer for At Midnight on Comedy Central. And now she is a staff writer on Good Mythical Morning. Also, she acts on there as well. She's unbelievable. Put your hands together for Emily Fleming.
Hey! Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's so good to see your faces over Zoom.
Oh, yeah. We love Zoom. JK, psych. I wish we were all in the same room together like we used to be.
I know.
So Emily and we go way. Well,
yeah, I think all three of us go way back to 2011 is when I first
pretty
met
far
all of
back.
y'all.
Oh, you know the date? Did you write it in a journal?
I don't remember the day, but I just remember I went to a show of yours because a friend of mine had heard of you guys. It was in Brooklyn. I just was like, oh my God, I got to be friends with these ladies.
Oh, that's nice.
And I met y'all afterwards because I found out, Marie was from Nashville and it took me forever to remember that you both weren't from Nashville.
That's
I think I
common.
Yeah, I think I would see you both at at things and be like, "Hey, let's talk about Nashville." And Katy'd be like,
I don't know.
Stop doing this. It's not. I'm not from there.
But Emily and I did not know each other in Nashville. We met in New York, but now whenever we're together in Nashville, it's a good old time.
Oh yeah, we definitely we
go hard. Well, so we wanted to have you on our podcast for a very long time. And honestly, we could never pick a topic because you're so multifaceted. There's so many different things.
Aww.
No, but seriously, Katy and I went back and forth on okay, we should talk to her about dress code. We should talk to her about being a female writer. We should talk to her about just showbiz in general and being a badass actress. But so this whole episode may feel a little ADHD because we might be skipping all over the place, but we really do want to start with the fact that you're a woman and you have ADHD.
And
That's
actually,
correct.
just for our listeners, could you just tell us a little bit about what you do and how you know, not just how you know us, but what your dealio is.
Okay, so I know you two ladies from the comedy scene in New York City. I was doing stand-up I would like to continue doing stand-up out here, but I don't.
You're in LA.
I'm in LA, but I currently I am. I used to be in New York with you ladies, which I don't know. Katy, are you still there?
I'm still here. I was hunkering down.
Oh my God. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm not underwater. I haven't gotten COVID yet, but time will tell. Anyway, but back to you.
Okay. Yeah. So I was doing stand up. I was also trying to, break into acting as best I could. And honestly, I didn't even think of being a writer as an option until I moved out to LA and got my first writing job on At Midnight on Comedy Central, which is no more, RIP. But I got that through kind of being on camera. I was a contestant on that show 3 times. And then
you won.
I won twice. And then after the 3rd time, there was a writer's position opening, but it was like, I knew one writer on there who, Chelsea Davidson. She's awesome. You should have her on your show. She's been a head writer and like a showrunner. So she's like next level lady writer. And I will say that every writing job that I've gotten in comedy, I was already performing on the show. Kind of, it helps me to know the show and to experience the show in order to write for the show. And so I was lucky enough on At Midnight to have been on the show a couple of times. And then when writing the packet, it was like, oh, I think I kind of get the show. So now I know how to write a game for the show. Whereas I had written a packet for At Midnight before ever being on the show. And it sucked. I remember I've looked back at it, been like, good Lord. So it's like, being on the show really helps you write it. And then I got lucky and got to write for it. Same with GMM. Like I had watched the show quite a bit on YouTube, and then I knew how to write the packet.
And that's Good Mythical Morning, right?
Good Mythical Morning, correct, with Rhett and Link. But then a couple months later, I came back as just an on-camera personality.
Oh, wow.
For the show. And then I started writing their Twitter jokes for them. And I think a lot of people describe, like, I remember the Twitter people going, who is writing these dad jokes? Like, why? These are so corny. And I was like, oh no.
It's me.
But I mean, yeah, exactly. So they have like a real social media team that's doing trendy stuff and GIFs and whatnot. I was just like, hey, when you go on down to the fish bait and tackle store and you can't like it was, not as bad as that, but they were kind of silly jokes. And then eventually, luckily, like November of 2019, they asked me to come back for a temporary, like they needed help with the holidays, kind of. They do a couple extra episodes and there's a lot of work. And I got lucky in January that they wanted me to come back full time. And then less than 2 months later, I know, I was like, thank God. So now I've been there for almost 2 years full time writing and doing on camera stuff. It's been fun. Yeah, I'm very, very lucky.
So you guys worked through COVID?
We did. We worked from home. We're still working from home. I still write from home.
Oh, wow.
I only go in when I'm on camera, which is not helpful with ADHD.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
I struggle a lot in this room, like in my little apartment, but get through it.
Well, I want to say that, like, one of the things that made me think like, oh, this would be a good topic for us to talk to you about. Number one, I guarantee you that we have female listeners that are also either not yet diagnosed with ADHD or have been diagnosed and don't, it feels different than the ADHD that people think of what it is. And one of the things that came up was that you posted something not that long ago on Instagram or TikTok or something about a doctor being like, this is how ADHD presents in women. And I was like, oh, right. It's different.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's always different. I think that there's a little bit about the perceptions of other people noticing it in people. And I think there's a little bit of bias in that. So although I do think that, I guess, through research that has shown that there is more often than not differences in presenting symptoms between men and women. But I also think the way that men and women are treated with those symptoms, or the way that they notice your symptoms. I mean, and it's even worse with people of color. Like it's way worse. Like it's the show, we did a series of, which we are still kind of working on, diversity program, like speakers and things, and the mental health and learning disability stuff and kids in school. It was very devastating to listen to. That because there are behavioral things that show through ADHD that people will sometimes think of as acting out. and that the kid is just unruly or a problem when really it's just ADHD or autism. Like, and then they're more likely to, I guess, care about the white kids than the kids of color, and then just put kids of color in ISS instead of helping them. And so I definitely think, yes, women are underdiagnosed and they don't notice us the same way as young boys because they're usually the hyperactive, like the more, I guess, disruptive symptoms are through boys where they're disrupting others in class. So they tend to like notice that more and be addressing that. Whereas with girls, it's like, she's lazy and she's not paying attention.
Is that a hurricane or is there a forest fire or a...
Hang on.
Oh, it just went away. Sounded like an Amber Alert.
It did sound like an Amber Alert. Let me just hang on. Let me check and see if that's my phone over there. It's probably my mom putting out an Amber Alert for me.
Oh my God.
My mom is like, I haven't. So speaking of ADHD, there's the whole thing about object permanence, which I've been learning about. Where it's like, which I still don't fully understand. But it's like, you know, if I don't see something for a while, I forget it exists.
Oh, sure.
So it's kind of like if I burn shit in the oven constantly. Like I'll put food in there and I'll forget that I did it until there's smoke.
Right.
And I do that all the time.
I feel like you've cooked for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like, if I don't talk to my parents for a while, I forget how long it's been since I've talked to them and I forget to check back in with them. And although I think some people may think that I'm like, that makes me a bad friend or a bad daughter or bad whatever, but it's like, no, I really just like, if I everything that's in front of me is like pretty much what I can deal with at the moment. So it just kind of, it's kind of complicated. I'm learning more and more about ADHD through TikTok.
Yeah.
Which is what's crazy. Well, I mean, I think this is why I've kind of gone down this ADHD journey through COVID, because my medication has changed and I've gone through kind of feelings of guilt about that. And I have a great psychiatrist, thank God, who helps me with it. But like, it's just been without the tools of being in a writer's room full of writers kind of bouncing ideas off together. I kind of thrive in that setting. And when I'm by myself, I don't usually thrive. Like it's like, I do like the kind of collaborative stuff of a writer's room. So learning to develop tools and stuff to continue developing as a writer and get better and stay on time and on task.
Are there little tricks and stuff that you can like think that you've learned that have been useful to you, or
higher dosage of medications so far has been the real trick and tip. Also like not drinking as much as I take a sip of my can of wine. But like, yeah, no, I guess I'm trying to talk about tips and tricks. Like, I think being a little bit more generous with myself and not being as hard on myself has been a huge help. And the TikTok thing has actually been a big part of that. Because the more I don't feel alone and the more I'm realizing certain things about myself that I've been so hard on myself for are just like a part of this, the more I just go, oh, I recognize it when I'm doing it. And then I don't get mad at myself. I just go, this is a thing. And then let's focus on pivoting from this like struggle or emotion. Like I'll just get really, there was something about time blindness and stuff where you get fixated on one thing and you can't break away from it. And I have to constantly, one of the things was an actual manual like clock with hands.
Interesting.
Instead of a digital clock, because the actual being able to visualize time going around the clock is somehow, it makes, I guess it's the object permanence thing. Cause it's like, other than looking at 3 or 4 numbers at a time, I can see the movement of time as it's happening, so that I don't know why, but it makes me time out what I'm doing a lot better.
That's super useful though to people that I think that are actually, I know someone else with ADHD that uses a clock like that, and I wonder if,
Yeah, I'm
without
probably
even
gonna
knowing
get a
they
big
might
clock.
be. Yeah.
But yeah, I have a watch. I have this nice watch that I bought for myself like 5 years ago, and I never wear because I don't know. I just am like, oh, it's fancy. I'm not gonna wear a watch. But now I'm like, I have a reason to wear this nice
Yeah.
watch because I need it for
Yeah.
help.
For sanity's sake.
Yeah, I
Well,
need it for help.
Do you mind talking a little bit about, when did you discover that, hey, maybe, because it is a disorder, so
That's what they
How
say,
old-
but I guess I don't agree with that. But like,
okay.
that's what they call. I mean, again, I've watched many TikToks where it's just like it's just a different type of brain,
Mm.
Right.
and that
Right.
there's
So actually, maybe it's not good to be calling it a disorder. Then,
I
if
don't
it's just
know.
like brain. Yeah.
It's not like I get offended by it or anything. It's just that I like kind of go. More and more I learn about it, the more and more I just go. I think there are just different ways of thinking and different like. Just like how I'm tall, I'm like taller, and there's different body,
Mhm.
types of stuff. I think there's different types of brains and how like functioning of brains and things that
Mhm.
just the world that we live in wants to organize everybody in a
Mhm.
timely
Right.
fashion
Mhm.
and in the same way. But it just like how people have step stools to reach another shelf for. I'm using the height analogy.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm doing that. It's like
in.
there's adjustments that need to be made, but it doesn't mean that somebody is lesser or disordered.
Right.
I just think that there's adjustments in the world that need to be made for everybody to function at high capacity in the best way that they can
Mhm.
to contribute what they're good at to the world.
Mhm.
And nobody's taking the time to do that. So
Yeah,
right.
It's kind of that, but like, yeah, but what was your thing about when are you asking like when I realized?
Well, yeah. I
or-
mean, did you experience this as a child or was this a little later?
yeah.
I mean, one thing I was reading that with women specifically, I mean, there may be even like 2 cycles of experiencing ADHD for the first time. Like when you do get your period for the first time because of your
boy.
hormones, and then also menopause.
Oh,
And this
great.
is for women that they're not studying enough. Yeah, I know. Something to look forward to.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I have that's great.
Sorry, I'm not a doctor.
Listen, I really wish that I wish my guidance counselor from elementary school would come back and give a menopause talk to like, cause we had the puberty talk with our guidance counselor,
Yeah.
Did
Why
you?
not have the menopause talk for real?
Well, we had it with Girl Scouts, like our Girl Scout, but
Oh.
she came down, Miss Pollock was her name. She was
Oh.
the best. The best lady, Aiken Elementary. Love that place.
Aiken.
Yeah, she like gave it. I remember crying and thinking, "Oh my God, I'm gonna bleed, and this sounds horrible. Why? I don't want to do it, and
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do it. And I just wish there was a nice lady in her 50s that could come tell me and a group of my lady friends about menopause and get us ready. Like
we should start that group. I'm not. We should.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. But yeah, no, there is a whole thing about women with ADHD and their cycles and how, PMS, it fucks everything up. So
Right.
it does make it harder. And that some women test on the scale for ADHD during PMS and not at any other time.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
very interesting.
But I have a feeling I tested all month long.
Yeah.
Just sometimes it's worse than others. No, I didn't. The thing about my ADHD is I didn't know I had ADHD. I just thought no one wanted to be around me, and that I had to stay after class and sit in the front row all the time, and I was a problem. It was just pretty much what I felt like. And I remember being a little kid. I was tested like a couple of times at school. And because my report cards were always in la la land, talks too much, can't stay on task, disorganized. Where's the homework? Where did it go?
Yeah.
And were your parents advocating for you, or
Well, they didn't know.
they didn't know either. Mhm.
Again, I think that in the 90s, especially, like ADHD was this hyperactive boys
Right.
thing where they're like bouncing off the walls, like being disruptive can't sit still kind of thing. So, which I was one of those kids. I couldn't sit still, but I would doodle, like I would draw a lot, or I would just disappear. And I started the whole like other thing on TikTok is disassociation or dissociating. And I realized like that's most of my life has just been me disappearing because I don't want to be places like ever. Like it's just me sitting in a thing that I'm like, I don't want to do this and I can't keep up with whatever they're doing. So I'm just going to go to a place where I do belong and just disappear to that place.
But like internally, you mean?
Internally, yeah. I just disappeared. And I do it today too, but I didn't know there was a name for it. There's a bunch of things that I'm learning. And once again, TikTok is not a news source. Like I think it's good for people to know that. But what I do is I see something on TikTok, like a word or something that I am like, what is that? And then I go to my psychiatrist and I bring that to her and then I ask her those questions.
Right.
Or I go online and look at like credible news sources.
Sure.
And like
she can
look up
validate whatever or not validate whatever you're seeing.
100%.
Yeah. That's really smart and healthy.
It's helped me with communicating to my psychiatrist, which I think is what's going to help women get diagnosed, or everyone, not just women, get diagnosed is through being able to communicate. Because I feel like with ADHD, understanding what to ask for or what your needs are or what's going on, it's so impossible to communicate because it's like your brain, you think you're normal is the thing. I think I'm completely normal.
Of course, because that's your experience.
But everybody on the outside of me is like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
And then you're like, I
and
didn't
how
think there
fucked up
was
does
anything.
that was an interesting thing too, because like one thing is that I know a man who is now sort of realizing that he may have ADHD, and he was not a hyperactive child. Like that wasn't part of his thing, but all the rest of it is like lining up, and he's like, this is crazy. Okay. Like I feel seen. I feel like people understand me, but also that like as a woman, because it's like a new thing for women to be diagnosed with ADHD, which is kind of a strange thing in itself.
I don't know if it's new. I think it's just women being diagnosed at a later age. I think that was adult ADHD is the new thing.
But that is like, I was reading something about, and I don't know, I'm speaking out of my ass because I'm speaking from an article.
Sure, you're not
your own experience. But
I mean, we're all figuring it out.
We're all figuring it out. But one thing that struck me was that a lot of adult women are being diagnosed with ADHD right now because their children, their daughters are being diagnosed. And they were like, their daughters like, acting out or whatever it is, and they're getting diagnosed with ADHD. And then the mothers are going, wait a minute, this is like exactly how I was. And then they are able to go and be like, wait, please help me. And then they're figuring it out.
Well, my dad is now medicated.
Oh, really?
And was it because his watching you kind of go through your struggles, or not related?
No, I think he's just like the doctor just went, hey,
it's time.
I don't think my parents really connected that it was, I know that it is a genetic thing, or it's a more likely that if a parent,
for sure. Yeah.
It can be like, but I know my mother's, she's definitely going to listen to this.
But we love you. We love you, Emily's mom.
I do think that my mom, like, I think that I'm very similar to my mom. Like the older I get, the more I see similarities. And I kind of think she might be ADHD. Like, there's a few things, like she's very organized and has to be to a point where it's like, nobody is like this.
If she wasn't, like it would be a thing, you mean? Or
I think that at least in her mind, but like she's tried to teach me those same skills. None of that took. I just live in chaos, and I find that like chaos is the way for me to be. I don't like, I have a calendar on my fridge that I write things down on, like, but it's mostly like writing stuff and things like that. But this job that I currently have, I can't think of another job that would have been more suited to me. And my ADHD, I'm still struggling with it all the time. But any other job, I think I would have been just so miserable. Like, I think that this is the writer performer thing. I don't know.
That's great. that you
Any
can do
other
both.
job that is going to ever give me all of this
Yeah.
at once.
Yeah.
And I feel incredibly lucky every single day. And then sometimes during the day I go, God damn it, I don't want to write this fuck.
I mean,
Like,
and that's work.
like,
I mean, that's just what work is.
It's just work.
Sometimes you
but
don't want to do it.
it's true. But then I just go, stop being such a bitch. This is the coolest job you've ever had.
Yeah.
But it's like, you still get frustrated. The main thing for me is I get frustrated by like the movement of things. It's so fast paced that like hyper focus is the thing I've learned about that is so fucking true for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like where once I get in the zone, I call it the zone. I'm pretty sure it's hyper focus is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard for me to get there. But once I get in there, it's impossible to get me out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you bother me when I'm in the zone, I get very agitated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that common for a lot of people with ADHD?
Yeah,
Like,
well,
'cause-
at least from what I know. Yeah, it is kind of like it's so hard for us to get in the zone of like the flow of something that once we're in it, it's like we are in it till it's over, like kind of thing. And we cannot be bothered, but that's just not how the world works. Like you'll be working on something. I'm trying to think of a thing I was working on today. I think there was like an episode that got changed and I was doing like research on something. And then I got like 5 slacks about other things. And I was like, well, now it's never going to be done.
Right.
It's just like, I'll never get back to it. I don't even know what the hell I was doing before. Like it's hard. But luckily I work with people who are very patient with me as well. Like I have my poor coworkers. I just am constantly like, what time is the meeting? What does that thing do? I don't know what it is. They're like, you can look at the schedule. I'm like, I don't want to look at that schedule. The minute I look at that schedule, I'm going to look at that schedule. And then I'm going to go, why am I looking at this? And then I'm going to like forget what I'm doing and miss a meeting because I was looking at a schedule.
Oh my God.
And then it's just like, just fucking tell me when the thing is, guys. Just please. Like, and they usually do. They just like, but I'm sure they're sitting there going, my God, she's the oldest woman at the show. and she's the most fucking like messy and like chaotic.
Well, it's nice that you have like coworkers that are understanding. I was just reading a thing about notice we're pivoting back to this like women with ADHD thing.
Oh yeah, please do.
But it was this blew me away that apparently like
you're gonna have to do a lot of that, by the way.
No, this is great.
Over here, Emily.
This is great.
Emily, over here.
Shit.
No, but it's related to what you were saying about your coworkers like being supportive because I did read something that said that men with ADHD, their female partners are much more compassionate and understanding of their ADHD and the stuff they go with. But male partners of women with ADHD tend to be much less compassionate and understanding.
Oh yeah.
And so that's
100%.
another level. As a woman with ADHD, it can be even harder to deal with because you're not getting the support that a man might get. And that doesn't even have to do with your symptoms. That's just like society and the way that we are structured.
Yeah. And
I don't know if you've experienced that, but.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And the weird thing is it's not till the pandemic and recently that I've kind of been doing this journey of deep diving, through research and stuff, because I'm very curious about it. The more I find out about it, the more empowered I feel. And
sure.
But I'm realizing so much of the problems in my past relationships all relate to this.
Oh,
it's
fascinating.
So much of it is based in ADHD. There's just so little consistency with people with especially I guess women with ADHD. It's just, we are hot or cold. We are one extreme to the other. And it's like, I need a lot of space. I'm somebody who needs a lot of space, but I also need you to be obsessed with me. Like there's, it's like, and it's not easy for a guy to do that. And I also like, because it takes me so long to do every task, sometimes I'm working late. Like tonight I will probably be up till 2 a.m. working on stuff. But that's just normally what I do. And I need to do that. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's just, that's how I work. And a lot of guys don't don't get it. It's hard for them to fit into your schedule when you're like in your hyper focus zone and you're like, I can't go on a date. I can't do it.
Right.
I'm busy.
Yeah, that male fragility and the insecurity that a successful woman causes is just
totally.
But that's the thing. It's like that. A lot of women deal with that anyway, and then how it's heightened then when you're in. And the truth is, it's like what's cool about you learning about where you're at with your ADHD is you're saying like, oh, this is what I need to function. This is what I need to thrive.
Still figuring it out.
And you're still figuring it out and you're learning those things. And so it is important to be able to be with people that like because you're going to say, sorry, not sorry. This is what I need. And they have to be able to be okay with that. And that's actually, like you were saying, it's really empowering because
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is like the emotional and so I'll start this out by saying like my psychiatrist just upped my medication. I've been trying to wean myself off of my medication. Mm-hmm. I've gone back and forth of not taking it because I've always felt guilty about taking it. Mm-hmm. And
why do you feel guilty?
I don't anymore, but I used to because it felt like, well, I'm not in school anymore. So
interesting.
I'm not supposed to take it anymore. I'm supposed to be fixed. I'm supposed to be all better now. It's just a thing in a school setting. And that is not fucking true. It's just not like, and I stopped taking it for a couple years, like when I was first in New York, and I kind of had like a breakdown. I remember in New York, those first couple years of just, I don't know, I couldn't hang and I didn't know what was going on is the thing. Cause at the time, like the emotional part of ADHD is the part I didn't know anything about. I thought it was just functioning at work, functioning at school, getting tasks done. I didn't know that it affected you in every facet of your life. And I was at my retail store. I was working at Jack Spade. I remember. And I was like about to have a nervous breakdown. Because it was Christmas season. I had just started that job and I was starting to lose my shit. Like I was like shaking. My face was all bright red. Like I go into rage mode when I start like realizing I can't keep up or people are asking too many things of me at once. And I just feel like, oh, I'm just an asshole that can't figure out how to live and that I'm just an idiot. Like it's all I kind of feel like. And my boss at the time pulls me aside and was like, they'll handle it, like grabbed another cashier or whatever. Like, and he goes, can I ask you a personal question? And I was like, okay. And he goes, have you ever thought about being diagnosed with ADHD?
Really?
And I was like, I am ADHD. And he goes, are you medicated? And I'm like, no. And he goes, why the fuck not? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I just was told that like, it's cheating. I think a lot of people think that it's cheating. A lot of people think that it's like a super pill that just makes you good at everything and that everyone's just on Adderall and but it's like, God. And that's the stuff that really hurts. Like the Simone Biles stuff really like, boy, that really made my blood boil. I was like so fucking pissed about that. That like people think that if you're on that, then you're like superhuman or you're performing at another level of somebody. And it's like, no, I'm doing this so you're not annoyed with me. Like that's it. Like I'm doing it so I can maintain relationships and not turn into a fireball of rage everywhere I go. And like, it's just the idea of it becoming, because it's associated with meth, that somehow it's like a superhuman, you're getting high and that kind of thing. It's really frustrating. So I ended up going back on it and oh my God, it was like, oh, I feel like a normal person. Like I just was denying myself normalcy.
And then did you have a psychiatrist then? Or is this
not at the time?
Because that's always what blows my mind too, is that when people are diagnosed and then given medication, but then actually a friend of mine was diagnosed with bipolar, but she is not bipolar. And actually, a lot of women with ADHD are misdiagnosed with bipolar or just depression and anxiety. Whereas like a lot of doctors just are not equipped to understand the nuances of ADHD. And so
Right.
they quickly are like, you are bipolar and here's this medicine, which is not going to help.
Good, and it can actually like cause worse symptoms of
Yeah,
whatever
and
you're
it-
having.
and it did.
Because
Yeah.
It's true. The whole bipolar thing. What's interesting is I actually have a good friend who is both ADHD and bipolar.
Oh, wow.
And so she's on 2 medications, but it's like it took the diagnosis of both of those things to know how to address it.
Mhm.
Like there are symptoms from both things. Like there are symptoms of ADHD that can present as bipolar.
Mhm.
But and vice versa. I mean, what's more distracting than like, being sad as shit.
Right.
But like, you know what I mean? And up and down and all that stuff. It's true. It's like, and so my journey of getting diagnosed, I'll say this, like I think from day one, it was like kindergarten. It was like preschool. It was like somebody just went, she talks too much. She's like nap time, can't stay like in one place. Like she's in La La Land. Wow. Like what a triggering movie title.
Yeah.
Like I was like, fuck this movie. But anyway,
Yeah.
maybe that's why people get angry at that movie is because everyone's undiagnosed with ADHD. And they're like, I fucking hate La La Land.
That's fine.
Eat my ass. Yeah, exactly. But no, and then I was like, I just remember having to see the school psychiatrist, or psychologist or therapist or what guidance counselor all the fucking time. I was probably the person they saw more than anybody. And I wasn't like I wasn't really disruptive in class. I wasn't really like, it just was like, how do we fix this girl who's clearly very bright, who is like talkative, can talk to adults. Like I loved adults, didn't really get kids. That's like another thing that I've seen a little bit of like when you talk about girls on the autism and ADHD spectrum, we prefer talking to adults when we were kids.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then I was like, sit there a bunch. And then in middle school, I kind of had my goth phase. I was also I moved from my elementary school to a new middle school. A lot of my friends were not there. And I just remember the classes got harder. Everything got harder. And I really couldn't keep up. Like it was really, really hard. And I decided to be a semi-goth because I was still wearing WWJD bracelets on both arms. I was big into church. I was very religious. Like I said this on stage, my parents were not very religious. I kind of did it on my own. Like, I don't know why I became obsessed with it. Like it was really weird. I think it's because I had a big thing for a boy in my youth.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, God led me to this boy and now I'm obsessed with God and this boy. Ugh. There's like a lot of obsessive things about ADHD too. Like I had obsessions all through elementary school where it was like, I was so obsessed with things that it alienated people. And I still wasn't diagnosed. And it was like, I was going through all these tests of like, oh, she's so bright. I don't know why she's not getting good grades. Oh, she's like so well-spoken. Oh, well, she can't pay attention. But, she just seems so bright. There's no way that she has ADHD. Like not thinking that you can be bright, well-spoken, and struggle with sitting in one place, writing about bullshit for like 5 hours a day.
Side note, our like educational system is fucked up. Like this idea that you're supposed to I've worked with kids a lot and I'm basically a child myself. And I understand that.
Me too.
It's like, you can't, this idea you're going to sit a child down, ADHD or not, and have them sit at a desk and try to like absorb stuff because I'm telling you something is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But
we
some
need to
kids thrived.
Some kids do. I would say some kids did better with that. But I think even the kids that do better with it, there's still a better way to learn. Even for those kids that can sit still for a while, like we can still do better for kids. And we can do
I
better.
don't know
We can
what
have
the
times
better
with
way
sitting.
is.
What'd you say?
I don't know what the better way is.
Well, the better way is like, I've talked about this in the pod, but I went to like a very like hippy dippy school and like we were out in the creek and like touching frogs and stuff. And like we learned, and the whole theory of the school was learn by doing. And like, that's what it is. It's not testing. We didn't have grades for, until we were like in 3rd or 4th grade. Like that wasn't a thing. Like we just,
oh my God,
we just lived. Yeah. We just like, they threw us out into the wilderness and then they were like, touch a frog. And I was going to say too about like the people that I know that have been diagnosed with ADHD or even suspect they have it. Some of these people are like the most brilliant people I know.
Oh yeah.
And like you were saying, it's like, it's just a different way that your brain works.
I think there's a little coping mechanism there too, where I feel like because I don't function like everyone else, I have to shine so bright in my way, or else why would they keep me here?
Well, that's
and
not
so
no
there's a
pressure
lot of
at all.
like, oh no, it's constant.
Right.
Like that's where the perfectionist thing comes in, where it's like, I'm really good at this and nobody else is. And so when I get the opportunity to do the thing I'm good at, I have to do it so good that it's undeniable why I'm here.
Oh.
And yes, it is like a lot of pressure and I do break down over it, but then sometimes it's a challenge and I enjoy it. And nobody's describing it this way, but this is whenever people talk about it on the internet, this is my interpretation of it. My ADHD, when I'm struggling a lot, because I'm not always struggling, even though I'm medicated, I still struggle.
Sure.
Medication does not fix everything. You still have moments of struggling. It's this moment where it's like, I am so frustrated being inside my own being that I need something to like break me away from the frustration. To just break me out of this, like, I can't escape my own skin. I can't escape my own mind. So it's like, I'm either dissociating, I'm pulling out my own hair, I'm scratching, I'm like pulling out my teeth. It's just like this. It almost feels like you're a prisoner inside your own mind, scratching to get out. And that's how I would say that it is. But it's like through therapy, I've felt less of a need to do the problematic versions of that. Exercise has really helped.
Right.
I exercise because my mind needs to break free from this. And I think when it comes to exercise, we should focus way more on that than on like everything else. Like I need to do shit like that, or else I will, get very frustrated in my own mind. Yeah. Oh, let me tell you how I officially got diagnosed though. So after like just constant, you're depressed, you're just lazy is kind of another thing, or you're just like a space cadet. I just remember all of these things happening and it just being like, no shit, this was ADHD. Like it just, so much of it was just like, duh. But I wasn't a dude bouncing off the walls kind of thing. But so I was in high school and private school was significantly easier, which looking back, especially now with the mask mandates and with, race theory, not like, and how everybody is trying to make it where people want to leave public school, how the right is trying to make it where it's like public school is uninhabitable. I feel like that has been a long play for a while now. Like they're bleeding out the teachers, like not paying them shit. They're making the classes hard as fuck for no reason. And the standardized testing hard as fuck for no god reason. Like, I mean, the standardized testing is the same for all of us, but I feel like when you go to a private school, just saying you went to a private school gives you an advantage with getting into college, which it fucking shouldn't. Like, it just shouldn't. Like, so you went to a school that taught the Bible more. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, it just was crazy. But, yeah, so like I just struggled a lot in public school. There's more kids. The teachers have like higher volumes of kids they got to deal with. and it's just harder. It just like the subject matter is harder. The standards of education are harder in public school. And then I went to private school and I was like, holy shit, this is easy. This is what way easier. Because my mother, well, I still sucked at it. I still was struggling, but not as much as I was struggling in public school because teachers had time and like the bandwidth to help me after class. Like I could go ask questions after class. I could like make time with the teachers, but also my mother worked at that Catholic school.
Oh,
so that's why I got to go. We're not private school money kind of people, but my mother worked at the Catholic school and I was struggling in public school. So we went there and I was a volleyball player and I sat on the bench, my 7th grade and 8th grade year. I didn't play in one game. I was the tallest kid on the team. I didn't play once. She just didn't play me. I think back on that and I'm like, I want to find that fucking bitch. I'd be like, what the fuck? It was middle school. Like, it's middle school. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't get why you...
Right.
Oh my God. Like, but anyway, so, and I was determined to not experience that again. And so I just remember my dad really like helping me out. I would go to like lessons. I played travel. I was doing all this stuff because I don't know. I really liked the sport. It was the first sport that I liked. I feel like girls in the 90s playing a sport became somehow like a thing you had to do. I don't know if that was a thing for, maybe it's a girl in the South kind of thing. I don't know. Was that your thing, Marie? Did your parents be like, you got to play a sport?
No, not with me because I couldn't.
I think it's because I was tall and
I think it was because I was short and stumpy.
But you both.
But I played church. No, we figured this out. I played church ball.
Yeah, we probably played church
basketball. Yeah, I probably destroyed you. I probably destroyed you
because I hated
just kidding.
It.
Oh, I loved it, but I was so bad. I was the kid. I told you that I lost a contact lens during a game, and I was like, time out, and then I found it and I licked it and I put it in my eye in front of the whole crowd.
Hell yeah, girl! We would have been best friends for life if I'd seen that.
And I used to go up to people and whisper while we were playing, "Satan is watching."
Oh fuck yeah, we totally would have been friends.
Oh, we definitely would have been.
Oh man, I wish but yeah, no, I think we missed each other by like a year. Like there was like a year between us that we would have played. But yeah, I didn't like being touched, which is again, there's an ADHD sensory thing that is like we light, sound, touch, and there's like a little bit of an overlap with autism with that. But I didn't like basketball because I didn't want people touching me. I didn't like being shoved around. I was like, get the fuck off. I didn't like it. Volleyball, there's a net like separating me from everyone. And we all have our own zone. We know our jobs. I do this thing and you do that thing. Fuck off. Like, it's like, that's volleyball. And it's pretty great. It's a great social distancing kind of activity.
Yeah,
sometimes. But yeah, no. So I was determined to play well. I remember, I think it was junior year. It was the end of, or maybe no. I think it was the end of junior year. Like we were doing preseason stuff in the summer after junior year, and my coach did this thing. The first thing she noticed, I remember, I started getting good at running. Like, cause we had to run like 1 mile to 2 miles before 3 hours of practice. And you had to get it in at a certain time. A mile couldn't be more than 8 minutes. 2 miles couldn't be more than 16. So I started learning to run with intervals, where I would be at the back of the line the first lap. And then I would slowly inch my way to the very front. And then I would beat everyone. Like it was just, I made a game out of it. Very ADHD. But I had a trainer who taught me how to do that. It makes the time pass. And it also is better for your endurance and metabolism to do it that way. And But then she would have us do sprints and my long legs be working so hard that she just went, I can see that you're really trying.
Oh.
Because before she was telling me I was lazy, I actually got a hernia my sophomore year because I'd never weightlifted before. I didn't understand it fully.
Mm-hmm.
And I was called lazy and I tried too hard and then I got a hernia and I had to get surgery.
Oh, geez.
Oh.
And then the running thing, the sprint thing, she just went, you need to make quicker steps. Try not to worry so much about your long strides. Like she started noticing I'm not lazy. I just don't fully understand what you're asking me to do. And so then she started paying more attention to me. And then she did this thing where we had practice and you hit the ball over the net and then you're supposed to like run to the other side, grab your ball, get back in line, and then toss the ball to the setter. They set you the ball, you hit it. Everybody was always going under the net. You go under the net, run, get your ball. But one day she just went, stop going under the net, go around the pole. And I couldn't do it. I kept hitting the ball going under the net. And then she'd be like, Fleming, if you do that again, you're going to get 10 push-ups. I fucked up 10 push-ups. This went on to 50 push-ups. And then she said, all right, well, if you do it again, everybody gets 50 push-ups.
Oh, no.
And then it kept going to the point where everybody was doing 100 push-ups. And like, I could not, it didn't matter what you said to me. I couldn't remember it. And so after practice, she pulled me aside and is like, I want to have a talk with you and your parents. You're not in trouble. I think you have ADHD.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, huh. And then I went to this testing place that was like, not just some, guidance counselor, not just some like after school bullshit. It was like a real facility that had the tests were different. I remember the tests were different. And then they took a lot of time talking to me, like personally. And I have the full file that they wrote about me. And I have a hard time reading it. It makes me cry. It makes me really sad because it just recognizes every single thing I struggled with for 17 years of my life, where it was like, God, I finally felt understood. And it was just took one person going, this person is trying really hard, instead of thinking this girl is lazy. Because it was lazy and loud and selfish was a lot of what I heard growing up. Talks too much. I can't believe I haven't touched on the fact that I talk too much as I've dominated this entire fucking podcast.
This is what a guest is for, my darling.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
And I don't want to put you in this category because I don't know what your experience is, but that was another thing that I read about ADHD is that like in girls and young women and girls that are presented with ADHD. And I don't think it's necessarily because of the ADHD. I think it's because of the reaction of other people to your ADHD. Right. A lot of young women also suffer from a lot of self-esteem issues.
100%.
Because people are telling them they're lazy and they're selfish and they're whatever, as opposed to just being able to acknowledge like, oh, this is something this is just different you're dealing with.
Oh yeah. The talks, the other thing, you mentioned the whole thing about partners and men. A woman who talks too much is like enemy number one.
Yeah, God forbid.
We are the thing they hate the most. Like, I mean, God, they hate it. Like, and I mean, that's in dating, that's in anything. The other thing is I've dated men with ADHD, and I realize that sometimes they can I think they've been bullied into being like, settle down, quiet down, all that kind of stuff too. And I have to like pull things out of them. Like I've got to then really engage and pull information out of them because I feel like they've been trained to do the same stuff. And I'm just trying to keep things exciting. Like the other thing about ADHD, and a lot of people talk about addiction and ADHD. And I think that that's going to be a big thing that people talk about a lot. Everything feels like an addiction, everything. Because there is a dysfunction with dopamine in the ADHD brain. I guess it's a lack of dopamine is what people say. But the other thing is just like the transmitters that connect, stuff together to get dopamine in simple ways that everybody gets. We don't have that. Like, it's like we have to work really hard to get it. And that's why the hyper focus thing happens. Like, once we're on a roll, it's like, I'm in it. I'm finally feeling good. Like, and that's why a lot of people with ADHD are alcoholics or drug addicts. And that's, I mean, we talk a lot because it's like, once we start getting on this hyper fixation role of a subject we're passionate about, and we're given the freedom to just ramble, it's the best feeling in the world. Like, rambling, literally, I could ramble for the rest of my life. Like, I could just do it forever. And I mean, Josh lets me do it on the kitchen channel, and it's not even my fucking show. He just lets me do it. And I mean, that everybody at that show just lets me go. And it's so nice. Like, I just am allowed to go crazy there. And it's like, God, what other place am I ever going to be allowed to do this? I can't think of any. And
how can our listeners find you aside from Good Mythical Morning?
So I'm on Twitter at Flemily Emming, and I am on Instagram at MEM Flemily. So EMFLEMILY. I would be Flemily Emming, but there's this other Emily Fleming who has a yoga business.
Fuck her. Fuck that girl.
Honestly,
fuck yoga.
I have talked shit about this chick, and I get it. The thing is, her Flemily Emming Instagram is like her personal, and then her business is something else. And she told me that getting rid of it, she's like, how will all of my 200 people who follow the Flemily Emming, how will they find my business? And I'm like, this isn't even in your business. One.
Yes.
You have another one. And it's like people are tagging her instead of me. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm probably going to have to give her money or something. But she doesn't know this. I'm terrible at money because I have ADHD. So
there you go. It's full circle.
Well, this episode is exactly what I thought it would be. This is amazing.
It's so helpful. I really do think that we're going to have lots of people out there that are going to relate, and this is very useful.
Well, if you guys have any questions for Emily, you can email us at difficultwomenpodcast@gmail.com. But also in the link below, I have all of her socials that you guys can hunt her down and ask her specific questions. And I'm sure you get back to every single DM.
That's awesome. Yeah. I try. As long as they're not
awesome.
As long as they're not shitty.
Well, thank you for joining us. We love you.
Oh, Emily,
love
you are
guys too.
so amazing.
This was fun.
This has been really awesome.